The 2021 MLB season is here, and although the seats may not be full, your bankroll has the chance to be. Greg Hoops Peterson has you covered for every game, every day this season, along with comprehensive analysis and angles for getting to the window while celebrating the walk-off winners and blown saves of what will be a wild season. Now it is time for the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson.
A warm and friendly hello, welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson, got a great podcast for you in the second segment. Jon Jansen does great work over there with Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, along SiriusXM's Fantasy Network. He is going to be joining me in the second segment. We're going to be looking at some of the games that we've got going down today, looking at the state of the Philadelphia Phillies as they try to climb their way into the postseason. Unlikely to happen, but never say never, just like we thought that the San Diego Padres were a shoo-in for the postseason and have gone into free fall mode, so we're going to be having that chat there in the final segment. Going to give you guys a sign total on every game on the betting board for this Saturday, and a little something I like to call touch them all. First things first, always love to be able to answer your Twitter questions on this podcast. If you got one or two ways, we all fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, the letters EM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to send in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast, whether it be a topic, whether it be a segment idea, just a question that you'd like answered, what have you. And we did wind up getting in a question to the Twitter mailbag, so let's dive into that.
So you have questions, and Greg may or may not have any insight into them, but let's dive into the Twitter mailbag.
I'm going to do my best to be able to get this name correct. This is Danny Bestrisky that fires this one in. He is at Best with 2 S's in it, and then Danny altogether, NES at GNR_D1. Hey Greg, I love your work, but don't you naturally have to have something a little bit more on a game in which you wind up having a big differential when it comes to the total, when it comes to side, what have you? And I certainly do have different differentials when it comes to baseball, on totals, when it comes to college basketball, spreads and totals, what have you. But the big thing with me is I really don't wind up putting anything more on a game because I'm someone, when it comes to the spread, I just put the 1.1 units down to win 1 unit. When it comes to favorites, like, let's say I wind up taking a minus 130 money line. When it comes to baseball, 1.3 units to win 1 unit. And then with underdogs, it is a flat 1 unit to be able to get a plus price. Because what I found in baseball, college basketball, when I've done my handicapping with football, is that the differential doesn't necessarily make the world of difference, because sometimes it's the bookmakers being off, sometimes it's myself being off. And if you just wind up firing in on a big differential on a game and you wind up coming up snake eyes, it can lead to one of two things. Well, for one, you wind up putting yourself in a little bit of a bigger hole when it comes to your bankroll, and for two, that can sometimes lead to chase mode if you're not careful. And when you wind up getting into chase mode, it's really bad, because let's say that you wind up going on your bets 40 and 30 when it comes to a minus 110 spread, which obviously you're doing really well. If you're laying minus 110 on all these bets, you go 40 and 30, you're doing a really solid job. But let's say that you wind up having 40 of those bets wind up being for 1 unit, and you wind up having 30 be for 2 units. The 2 unit bets wind up going 10 and 20. Meanwhile, the 1 unit bets absolutely clean up. Well, you haven't made any money, because the bets that you wound up firing a little bit of a bigger amount on, you wound up coming up snake eyes on. And I'm one of those people that, when it comes to my betting style, I'm a big believer in the whole being greater than the sum of its parts. Because when it comes to the MLB, when it comes to college basketball, I wind up evaluating every single one of these teams. I do so very equally. When it comes to baseball, I've just always loved the game of baseball. I've always been one that wound up taking a look at old baseball cards, just taking a look at all these teams. Even though I grew up in the great state of Wisconsin, I would pay attention to West Coast games, East Coast games, obviously the Milwaukee Brewers. And when it comes to college basketball, being someone that used to do bracketology for college basketball, you have to pay attention to every single conference equally, because being able to pick correctly a team that is going to be on the 16 seed line when it came to bracketology grading was the exact same as being able to pick correct those 1 seeds, those teams that are in the playing game, what have you. So it is a big reason why I do wind up having the style that I do. I wind up dedicating an equal amount of time when it comes to the Milwaukee Brewers as opposed to, say, the Chicago Cubs, and when it comes to college basketball, Norfolk State as compared to Duke. So that is a big reason why I do keep everything constant, just because I do take a look at everything very equally And what I've just noticed from looking back at a lot of the bets I've fired in over recent years, a lot of times I wind up having a little bit more success with the smaller differentials, just because even though a lot of bettors might not have a lot of feel for a random game between, say, like the Minnesota Twins and the Chicago Cubs in baseball, if you're looking at college basketball, let's just throw out there the Minnesota Gophers and the Ohio State Buckeyes. You've got a pretty mundane spread there. Well, the bookmakers have to put out a line on every single one of them, and just like bookmakers might wind up having a little bit of a better feel for one team rather than the other, they fall into this as well, and they've got no choice but to post up a line. And when you wind up getting these games, well, there has to be one winning side, unless if you wind up having a spread and it winds up being a push, in which case you wind up getting your money back. So you just do your best to be able to find those winners, and it's just a big reason why I do have the style that I do, just because I do wind up covering a little bit of everything. I always want to avoid chase mode if at all possible. I would rather build up my bankroll a little bit more slowly rather than have it go into free fall very quickly. So hopefully that answers your questions. I always do appreciate when you guys fire these in, especially since a new show has been launched over there at the Vegas Stats and Information Network called The Greg Peterson Experience. If you're listening to this podcast at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, well, it's actually going on right now, because the show is now every Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 4 a.m. Pacific time. If you're out here on the West Coast, it's Friday bleeds into Saturday, and then Saturday bleeds into Sunday from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Pacific time. If you're Mountain Time, that would make it from 11 to 2, and if you're Central Time, midnight to 3. So we've got that going on. I know that many of you guys have been wondering about my college football insights and expertise. Going to provide a little bit of that. Going to be taking a look at the late baseball games there. So even though I'm not going to be doing as much recapping on Saturdays and Sundays moving forward, when it comes to the MLB results, don't worry, I've got you guys covered there, and I'll be giving you guys a lot of baseball banter on that show as well, so have no fear there. And it is always great to be able to take a look at the game of baseball in general. So let's take a look back at everything I'm able to gather as of the time of recording from this podcast from Friday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
What happened yesterday? Let's go around the bases and find out.
Shock, shock, surprise, surprise. The St. Louis Cardinals remain as hot as lava, as in Game 1 of their double dip against the Chicago Cubs, they wind up being able to get the job done by a count of 8-5, as you wind up having Paul Goldschmidt along Tyler O'Neill both collect their 30th home runs of the season, and Jose Rondon was able to get his second home run of the campaign in this one, as Justin Steele, well, he was not as strong as Steele. He gives up all 3 of those homers, 6 runs in total over the course of 5 innings. Tommy Nance gives up 2 runs in an inning, and then you wind up having a scoreless inning out of Mr. Jason Adam, as for the Cubs, they were able to get a couple runs late thanks to a Sergio Alcantara home run, his 4th home run of the season. That comes off of Alex Reyes, who has certainly had his ups and downs recently, giving up all 4 runs in 1 2/3 innings. TJ McFarland gives up a run in his 3rd of an inning. Giovanni Gallegos was able to get his 13th save of the season. J-App, he didn't last long in this one, but was able to deliver 4 scoreless innings, and then the St. Louis Cardinals wind up being able to get the job done against the Chicago Cubs in Game 2, as they were able to play another over in this one, as Zach Davies, he gets lit up for 6 runs surrendered over the course of 2 innings, as Tyler O'Neill winds up going deep again, his 31st home run of the season. You wind up having Paul DeJong get his 18th home run of the campaign. That comes off of Michael Rucker, and Rucker got rucked by Lars Nootbaar, his 4th home run of the season for Rucker. He gives up 2 runs over the course of an inning. Scott Efros was able to give you a scoreless inning along with Trevor McGill. Rex Brothers gives up a run in an inning, and for the Cubs, Patrick Wisdom was able to get his 28th home run of the season. That comes off of Captain Jack Flaherty. For Flaherty, was not necessarily what he was looking for. He winds up giving up 2 runs in a 3rd of an inning. From there, Dakota Hudson winds up piggybacking off of him, giving up 2 runs in 3 2/3 innings. Looks like he's sort of going to be used probably as like an opening starter. Maybe he winds up being a guy that winds up becoming like a super reliever, so going to be interesting to see what happens there. Genesis Cabrera was also able to end the St. Louis Cardinals a scoreless inning, so the Cardinals now have won 14 straight games, and a team that has been winning a lot of games recently, that'd be the Tampa Bay Rays. They wind up taking down the Miami Marlins by a count of 8-0. For the Fishies, you wind up having Edward Cabrera not give the start that he was looking for. He gives up 3 runs over the course of 3 innings. Sean Gunther from there gives up 4 runs in 2 innings. Zach Thompson, Sandy Leon, and Sandy Leon, by the way, a backup catcher, both give you a scoreless inning, and Zach Pop gives up a run in an inning for the Miami Marlins. absolutely nothing doing in this one. 2 total hits as you wind up having David Robertson be the opener in this one, and Ryan Yarbrough, by the way, I believe is now 26-6 in his career when coming out of the bullpen. 6 scoreless innings, and then you wind up having Dietrich Enns give you 2 scoreless innings, and for the Tampa Bay Rays, no home runs, and they go just 3 of 15 with men in scoring position, but they were certainly putting a whole lot of pressure on those poor fishies. The Chicago White Sox were able to put just enough pressure on the Cleveland Indians. 1-0, they wind up getting the W as Dylan Cease, a tremendous start on the road, entered into this game with a north of 5 ERA away from Chicago, but 5 1/3 innings scoreless. Ryan Burr gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, and then Aaron Bummer, Craig Kimbrell, Liam Hendricks, all able to give you scoreless innings. And lone run of this game, a solo run by Luis Robert, his 10th home run season, as we welcome back Shane Bieber Fever, who looked very good in his 3 innings in this one. 3 scoreless, he's priming up for next year. Nick Whitgren, along with Anthony Goose, were able to combine for 3 scoreless innings. Blake Parker gives you a scoreless inning, and then you wind up having Trevor Seaven give up that home run to Robert as he winds up giving up just that solo run over the course of 2 innings for the Cleveland Indians. Just nothing doing in this one as they wind up going 1 of 7 with men in scoring position, so the White Sox able to get the job done there. The Minnesota Twins were able to get the job done against the Toronto Blue Jays. 3-1 the final in this one in the Jose Barrios sort of revenge series, as for the Blue Jays, just not a lot happening on offense for the team. Marcus Semien, 42nd home run of the season, that was it. And for Mr. Barrios, not a great start, not a terrible one. He winds up giving up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, including a homer. Byron Buxton supplied the boom in that one, 15th of the season, as the Twins should go just 1 of 10 with men in scoring position, but Bailey Ober was very solid. Gives up that solo bomb to Mr. Semien, and that was it. 5 1/3 innings, giving up 1 run. Ode Alcala was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, and then Juan Minaya, Ty Duffy, and Alex Colomé were all able to give you a scoreless inning. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, they got a pair of scoreless innings out of Trevor Richards and Nate Pearson. So the Blue Jays find themselves slipping a little bit when it comes to wild card, as the New York Yankees have now assumed a 2-game lead over them for that second wild card spot, as the Yankees wind up taking down the Red Sox by a count of 8-3. For the Bronx Bombers, you were able to get a tremendous start out of Garrett Cole, giving up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, including a homer. Rafael Devers, his 35th homer on the season, and it was much better than the start that Nathan Eovaldi wound up having, as Mr. Eovaldi gives up 7 runs in 2 2/3 innings, as Giancarlo Stanton was able to get his 32nd home run of the season. Later in the game, Martin Perez, who winds up coming in for 3 relief innings, giving up a run. That 1 run, a solo run to Gleyber Torres, his 8th of the season and his first since mid-July. Matt Barnes was able to give you a scoreless inning out of Kazusa Mota. 2 1/3 innings scoreless, and for the Yankees, the bullpen was able to do their part as Wandy Peralta, Clay Holmes combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Chad Green was able to give you a scoreless inning. Yankees now 7-3 in their last 10 games against the Boston Red Sox after going on an 0-7 slide to begin the season in this, I guess you could call it, season series. Also out there in the American League, you wound up seeing the Kansas City Royals take down the Detroit Tigers by a count of 3-1. How about what Carlos Hernandez is doing? The team is 9-2 in his last 11 starts. 5 scoreless innings. Domingo Tapia gives up a run out of the bullpen, but then you wind up having Jake Brentz give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Josh Shamount, 1 1/3 innings scoreless. Scott Barlow was able to get the save, and for Adalberto Mondesi, he was able to get a nice triple in this one, as you wind up having the Royals not necessarily do a lot of damage, but it was just enough to be able to get it done, as Casey Mize seems to be on a pretty strict innings limit. He winds up going 3 innings, giving up 1 run. Jose Urena was able to give you 2 scoreless innings. Derek Cullen gives up a run in an inning, and Alex Lang gives up 1 run in 1 1/3 innings. Kyle Funkhauser, pair of outs out the bullpen, and Joey Menes was able to give you a scoreless inning. But for the Detroit Tigers, 1 of 7 with men in scoring position, just nothing doing for them. A lot doing for the Philadelphia Phillies, though. They wind up taking down the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're obviously going to be talking about this team a little bit more with Mr. Jon Jansen, but they get it done by a count of 8-6. For the Buccos, Wilmer Defoe was able to get his 4th home run of the season, as it was the opener of Sam Howard who wound up giving you a scoreless inning for the Pittsburgh Pirates. From there, you wind up having Mr. Miguel Yajur come into the game. 3 2/3 innings, gives up 3 runs, including a pair of bombs, being able to go deep for the Philadelphia Phillies in this one. Kyle Gibson, the starter of the Philadelphia Phillies, gets his first home run of the season, and they needed it because he gives up 4 runs over the course of 6 innings. Didi Gregorius, he would go deep off of Jason Shreve later in the game, 13th of the season, and Brad Miller gets his 20th home run season off of Yajur. As for the Philadelphia Phillies, by the way, Cam Bedrosian out of the bullpen gives up a home run. 2 runs in total while getting just 1 out. Hector Neris, 1 2/3 innings scoreless, was big for the team, and Ian Kennedy winds up getting the save, as going deep for the Buccos was Defoe, as you then from there wind up having Shelby Miller, heighten his ERA to an 11.42, giving up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Nick Mears was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, but then Jason Shreve winds up giving up one of those homers, 3 runs in total in an inning, and Kyle Keller winds up coming in for a scoreless inning. So that was a big giant whatchamado. The Texas Rangers entered into their game with the Baltimore Orioles on Friday, having scored 3 runs or fewer in 8 straight games. They put up 5 in the 9th inning to get an 8-5 win. Absolutely hilarious. The calamity that is a Baltimore Orioles bullpen, as it was Nate Lowe wound up getting a home run earlier in this game off of one Alexander Wells for his 16th home run season. For Wells, he gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. From there, Fernando Abad, not a bad, as he winds up giving you 1 1/3 inning scoreless. Joey Kriebel along with Cole Sulzer both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Dylan Tate was able to give you an out as well, and then Tyler Wells winds up giving up 1 run, and he does not provide an out. And then Connor Green gets his ERA up to a 7.25, giving up 4 runs while getting 1 out. From there, Eric Handold was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. And for Cedric Mullins, he gets his 30th home run season. That winds up coming off of Spencer Howard. And for Howard, his longest appearance as a Texas Ranger, 4 innings, and he gave up 4 runs, including that homer. From there, Josh Orbich gives you an inning, giving up a run, but Joe Barlow was able to get the save with his scoreless inning, and Drew Anderson, 3 scoreless innings. I know the Rangers have looked at him for a couple starts. They might want to do so once again because he provides a whole heck of a lot more than our good buddy, Mr. Spencer Howard. The San Francisco Giants, they provide a lot as well. They take down the Colorado Rockies by a count of 7-2 for the Giants, who were able to get quite a few deep balls in this one. Both Brandon Crawford and Brandon Belt go yard. For Belt, his 27th home run season. Crawford is 22nd. Tommy Lassell, his 7th home run season. That comes off of Peter Lambert, and you wind up having Ashton Gadoo give one up to Mike Yastrzemski, his 25th home run season for Lambert. This is his first start in quite a while since the 2019 season at the MLB level. 3 2/3 innings, gives up 2 runs, both solo home runs. From there, Ashton Gadoo gives up a pair of bombs, 4 runs in total over the course of 2 1/3 innings. From there, Robert Stevenson, an unearned run, Yancy Almonte Jr. Fernandez, both give you a scoreless inning. And for the Colorado Rockies, no home runs in this one, as the San Francisco Giants did a good job of bending but not breaking. Alex Wood only goes 4 innings, but he gives up 2 runs in the process. From there, this guy's been very impressive. Kervin Castro still has yet to allow a run as a San Francisco Giant, 2 scoreless innings. I think that he's went 9 1/3 scoreless now. And then Tony Watson, Tyler Rogers, Camilo Duval, all are able to give you a scoreless inning. Got a couple games that are still raging as I do this podcast, as you've got the LA Dodgers, who are currently up 4-2 on the Arizona Diamondbacks for the Dodgers. Big thing in this one, Tony Gonsolin was able to end 5 innings of work, and for AJ Pollock, fresh off the injured list, 17th home run of the season. That winds up coming off of Mr. Humberto Castellanos, who winds up going 5 innings, giving up 3 runs in the process. Somehow, someway, the Cincinnati Reds are in the 11th inning against the Washington Nationals. 7-7 is counted this one. As for the Washington Nationals, Paulo Espino gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. For the Reds, they should have had this game won, and then they allowed a 3 spot in the 9th inning to the Washington Nationals. Just an absolute calamity after Sonny Gray gives up 4 runs over the course of 4 innings, including a pair of homers going deep for the Washington Nationals. Alcides Escobar, 3rd home run of the season, and Keibert Ruiz, one of the big pieces from that Max Scherzer deal, was able to get his 2nd. Amir Garrett, Tony Santillan, Michael Lorenzen, Lucas Sibbs, Luis Sessa, all give you scoreless innings, and Michael Gibbons gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. I think that the Reds are now on pitcher number 10, I'd like to say. They might be on pitcher 11 in this one, and for them, they've also got quite a few home runs in this one. Max Schrock, his 3rd home run season. Nick Castellanos, his 30th, and Eugenio Suarez was able to get his 28th as Washington Nationals wound up going to the bullpen for Mr. Balladano, as Alberto Balladano gives up 2 runs in 1/3 of an inning. Andres Machado gives up a solo home run in his 2/3 of an inning. Patrick Murphy gives up a run in 1/3 of an inning. Sean Nolan gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. And then from there, Kyle Finnegan, Austin Voth, and Joan Romero were both able to give you a scoreless inning. So we've got a whole lot going on there. The Atlanta Braves and the San Diego Padres, by the way, their game is very early in the going for the game that actually started on Friday, but the Padres and the Atlanta Braves wind up finishing up a game in San Diego that started in Atlanta in July, and the resume game saw the Padres be able to get a 6-5 win. I think that they were a spot in a lead going into this one, and then they wind up getting a home run from the bat of Fernando Tatis Jr. to be able to win this one. Technically his 30th of the season, really his 41st home run of the season, and Reese Noir wound up starting this game, and then he winds up starting game 2 of this one. So this is just one of those things where you're like, what the heck is going on here? As Mark Melanson was able to get the save, and for the Atlanta Braves. This loss dropped them to 46 and 49, so we can make our jokes there. And then you wind up having Adam Duvall, who was, I believe, not on the roster going into this game, getting his 22nd home run of the season off of Danny Hudson, who was not on the roster when these teams wound up starting this game on 7/21. So you've just got a whole lot of stuff going on there, and you've got a whole lot of stuff going on when it comes to the Houston Astros, as it looked like they were going to be throwing Zach Greinke in this one. Instead, they threw out their Brandon Bielak. He wound up giving up 3 runs in 3 innings, so that was not necessarily great, though. Jose Altuve able to get his 30th home run of the season off of one Frankie Montas, who was able to complete 5 innings. He gives up that home run and really has been doing a solid job from there. So what have we all seen in Major League Baseball over the last 3 days? Well, we have seen home teams not do well in Major League Baseball over the last 3 days. It has been very hilarious to watch, to say the least, as this comes via Covers.com. Home teams 191 and 209 with obviously a couple games left to go on Friday. So hitting at a rate of about 47.8%. Favorites have dried up a little bit. As I record this, 223 and 170 over the last 3 days. That's about 56.7% on the hit rate. Unders have a slight lead on overs at 188 and 186. So 50.3% of games have been going under over the last 3 days. If you're looking at the season to date, you've got 1,089 unders and 1,080 overs, so very close to 50-50 favorites, 1,336 and 923, so winning at a rate of about 59.1% home teams, 1,224 and 1,058, so winning right around 53.6% of the time, and over the last 7 days, obviously, with a couple games pending, favorites just 51 and 44, 53.7% hit rate with overs having a lead on unders at 47 and 45. So that's what we're all seeing in Major League Baseball right now, and that's what we wound up seeing on Friday. Now let's turn the page forward to Saturday, and let's go out to Philadelphia to meet up with our good friend Jon Jansen of Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler. Going to be taking a look at the Phillies, their hopes at being able to make the postseason. Also going to be taking a look at the baseball betting board for this Saturday right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast with myself, Greg Peterson.
Greg is calling in a pinch hitter from the Overtime Network hotline.
We're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. It is always a pleasure to get this man on the podcast, as Jon Jansen is doing some absolutely terrific work over there with Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler. He does the show The Line Change, which you're able to hear every Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Pacific Time. That is 5 to 8. Also does a lot of work with SiriusXM's Fantasy Network, which certainly does a great job with both of those places, and also does a little bit more fantasy coverage with Win Daily Sports as well. And to be able to follow Jon Jansen on Twitter, you're able to do so at JJansen and then the number 34. And Jon, great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, man, during this just absolutely electric Phillies playoff race.
It absolutely is. And well, the St. Louis Cardinals going on this massive win streak has certainly hurt them. But at the same time, the Philadelphia Phillies actually have a shot at the National League East. And dare I say, their best pitcher over the last few months in Ranger Suarez is going to be taking the bump on Saturday against Will Crowe of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And the odds makers seem to think that the Phillies have a good shot of being able to pull this one out right around a minus 250 to minus 255 favorite. And I don't think that there's any reason to think that the Philadelphia Phillies won't pull out these games against the Pittsburgh Pirates. We have seen the offense certainly have their struggles in recent days. They were able to bust out on Thursday after they wound up having a sluggish start, but it's been so interesting because it seems like when the pitching is going, the bats are not. And then when the bats get on, the pitching winds up going to poop.
Yeah, and you know what? They continue to somewhat win through it. It's almost like it's all syncing together. Whenever it seems like the hitting goes extremely bad, you know, the pitching picks up. And as soon as the pitching goes extremely bad, then the hitting picks up the way it did against the Pirates in the first game. So I don't know how to explain it. Baseball is a weird sport sometimes, and what the Phillies are doing, it's not good. It's not great at all, and honestly a bad brand of baseball, but they just sometimes pitch their way through it and sometimes hit their way through it. I have no idea how that's happening. One thing is, they would not be anywhere close to the NL East if it wasn't for Bryce Harper. That consistency every single night and him impacting the games in so many different ways, that is so invaluable. If that wasn't there, the Phillies would have no shot in all of this.
Yeah, it's been so fascinating to watch this Philadelphia Phillies team and their trials and tribulations, to say the least. And when it comes to the MVP odds, you're right now finding Bryce Harper at quite a few books. Now the favorite, Juan Soto, has actually been very fascinating as well to be able to take a look at the way he's been rising in these markets at right around a plus 450. You've got Fernando Tatis Jr. at plus 250, and I just feel like you can't give it to Fernando Tatis Jr. at this point. And I do feel like Bryce Harper does deserve the MVP, but it certainly is probably going to be a case of, can he wind up coming up big for the Philadelphia Phillies these last 8-9 days of the season?
Yeah, has come up big, and I just honestly can't believe that it's to this level. You know what I mean? Like it's at a level where I didn't think he would ever be able to reach again. He reached it one point in his career, but I never thought he would reach it again. And we saw, certain heights of it and certainly glimpses of it. But for the fact that he's been able to put it together for an entire season, and especially the second half of the season, that just putting up almost historic numbers. I never expected that when Bryce Harper signed. I thought they were getting top 20, top 25 player, but for him to be as good as he's been and even exceeding those expectations, it's the one thing the Phillies got right. And they haven't gotten many things right over the past few years. That's one thing they got absolutely right.
I am right there with you, as we do have Jon Jansen of Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, joining me on the podcast. And when you take a look at the National League East race, because I feel like that's the best shot for the Phillies to be able to make the postseason. The St. Louis Cardinals are right now taking on the Chicago Cubs. They are not going to be losing to the Chicago Cubs. That's a little bit of a spoiler for you. What do you think their best opportunity is? Because you take a look at the Atlanta Braves, they're currently locked up in a series with the San Diego Padres, and the Padres, we've seen them really hit the skids. They were the team that we all thought was going to be that second team out there in the National League wild card. We thought that they were all secure, and I can't bet on the San Diego Padres until they throw out there an actual starter. Joe Musgrove is someone that I'm looking to back, but pretty much whatever Joe Musgrove is on the mound, I really have my trepidations with the Padres at this point.
You mean Vince Velasquez isn't the type of pitcher that you're willing to bet on? Not Vinny V?
No. Jake Arrieta was worse than Vince Velasquez, with Vince Velasquez not too far behind.
I know, it's sad. I just think the Phillies have to win the NL East. And honestly, with the way the Braves are, and they're in a series with the Padres, and Padres are kind of going in a very bad direction. But look, they have a Pirate series here that they need to. This isn't you take a couple of games from the Pirates. This is you take the series. You have to win these games, and then you have that all-important Braves series coming up, and that's where it's sort of going to be settled. But it's right there in front of them. Take care of the Pirates. It's an easy team to beat. They're one of the worst teams in baseball. You have to win this series, but win it and not split it like they have been pretty much all season. They have to win this series. And in a perfect world, they would sweep, but that's going to be, of course, very hard to do with this team.
I completely agree with you, as we do have Jon Jansen of Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, joining me on the podcast. And when I take a look at the card for Saturday, I do think that it is going to be really intriguing to see what we wind up getting out of the San Francisco Giants as they hit the road face-off against the Colorado Rockies. Because when you just take a look at the records, it looks like a big, giant mismatch right now. We're finding the Giants as in the neighborhood about a minus 140 favorite. DraftKings is a minus 155. Pretty much everywhere else is right around a minus 140. And for Anthony DeScalfani, he has been solid on the road, but I personally am looking at an under with total anywhere between 11.5 and 12 because John Gray, sub-4 ERA at Coors so far this year. DeScalfani has actually been a little bit better on the road than he has been at home. And I feel like with Coors, it is always a little bit tricky handicapping that ballpark, but it is getting a little bit cooler now in that just sector of the country. So I do take a look at it, and even though the Giants have been really good at being able to crank out the homers, I think we're going to see some good pitching in this one.
Yeah, two good pitchers in the mound, DeScalfani, as you mentioned, but also John Gray. This is a spot where he's usually been pretty good, and so I think we can trust Gray in this spot as well. I'm not saying I love the side, but I am leaning a little bit San Francisco here. There's been something about this run, and they had a good series against the Padres, good series against the Braves, so I just think the Giants have been consistent enough that even in a spot like this, I think I like him, despite even Colorado being so good at home. I'm seeing San Francisco around minus a 140. It's a price that I wouldn't be too, against taking.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm going to be taking a look at the San Francisco Giants in this one. I'm also probably going to be taking a look at the New York Mets if we wind up getting numbers across the board like we're seeing right now at DraftKings. You're getting a plus 210 on the Mets against the Milwaukee Brewers, or right now 260 at DraftKings, with Corbin Burns going for the Brewers. And Corbin Burns, no doubt, has been really good, but at the same time, you take a look at this New York Mets team. Have they been hitting the skids recently? Yes, but at the same time, with the Milwaukee Brewers, I just don't know if they're going to be able to generate enough runs to be able to get the W. And we've seen this bullpen really start to regress a little bit. It seems like they're sleepwalking into the postseason. And certainly when you wind up getting your frontline starters like Brandon Woodruff and company, it is getting to a case in which you're going to be able to trust them in the postseason. But I take a look at laying a minus 260 with a guy in Corbin Burns that actually has a losing record at home. It's just something I'm not willing to do in this spot.
No, not willing at all. And thing is, when you see Burns, I don't like to take too much stock into did a team win his starts, but just it's how good they've been in his starts. Brewers hasn't lost a game that he started since July. So it's really hard to do. Obviously, this is a good Brewers team, but I like what you're trying to do. It's the perfect thing you should be doing. You're trying to catch a team that's sleepwalking. You're trying to catch a team that's in cruise control. And it just seems that the Brewers are pretty much at this point in cruise control. And they're just kind of, walking their way into the postseason. The Mets side would be the side to play. I don't know if I trust them enough to do it, though, because the Mets still, to me, I cannot stand that lineup. I would be taking a little bit of a look at the under, and I know it's probably going to be decreased a little bit because when you have a guy like Corbin Burns on the mound, that's obviously going to reflect in the total. But I think this is going to be a real low-scoring game. I'm probably going to look at an under of this one if I see sort of the right price and the right total.
I don't blame you there. The Milwaukee Brewers just have not been able to get out of their own way on offense recently, and it's going to be really interesting to see what we wind up getting out of so many of these teams. But I take a look at the betting board. This is a game in which is going to have no playoff implications whatsoever, and I have no idea why the Kansas City Royals are only between about a plus 110 to a plus 120 with John Hazley going for them, a guy that wound up giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings at the minor league level, not even the AAA level, the AA level, and he's going to be going up against Tariq Skubal and company for the Detroit Tigers. Now, the word of caution with the Tigers is that I know that Skubal along with Casey Mize have been on an innings restriction. These guys have been mostly going 3 innings in their starts, but I take a look at the spot and getting the Tigers right around minus 127 to minus 130, sign me up.
Even if Skubal doesn't go very deep into this game, I don't think you'll need him to win one like this because, as you just said, this pitcher that he's going up against, John Hazley, is not very good. It's such a short line. Basically, I'm taking the home team, a slightly better team, and they're at least going to get, 3-4 innings minimum out of Tariq Skubal. So, yeah, I think that's the right play. I'm seeing it, at minus 130. I think that is the right play here with Detroit. You're getting it such a short line. Again, the home team, I absolutely like that one.
Yep, I absolutely do. And I also like this one. I'm going to be taking a plus price with the New York Yankees on Saturday against the Boston Red Sox. I take a look at Nick Pivetta, and I just have no faith in him at Fenway. I recognize that he has a winning record at home, but he's got a 5.69 ERA whenever he's at home. At Fenway, he's given up right around 2 home runs per 9 innings. And for Nestor Cortes, he's given up 3 runs or fewer in all but one of his appearances so far this year. Now, he's been giving up the deep ball as well. I believe that he's given up a home run in every one of his starts ever since the beginning of the month of August, but he does a good job of being able to keep that contact down. He's done a nice job of just being able to not walk a lot of guys, keep games out in front of them. And this is a Yankees team that going into Friday night, they had won 6 out of their last 9 against the Boston Red Sox after the Red Sox owned the early part of the season series against them. So I take a look at the spot, and I feel like I've got to fade Nick Pivetta here.
Yeah, I think it's a great spot to fade Nick Pivetta. And the biggest problem with Nick Pivetta with the Phillies, and it seemed like it was going away early in the season where he was able to put out batters and he was actually able to strike people out. But the problem is he always gives up, a few too many home runs, and he can get crushed when he goes up against a lineup, particularly like the New York Yankees. I think the Yankees at a plus price too. I think that's great. Nestor Cortes has been good. He's been serviceable. I think it's a good matchup. But yeah, Nick Pivetta is not one I'm too scared, especially against a lineup with so much power like this one.
Yep, we are in locks up there as we do have Jon Jansen of SiriusXM's Fantasy Network along with Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, joining me on the podcast. And John, when you take a look at everything that we've got for Saturday, is there anything that's standing out for you, whether it be a game with playoff implications, if it's something that you're going to be looking to fire in a bet on, just anything that's catching your fancy in general?
I know a lot of the times we try and look for the sharp plays, and we don't want to do the simple ones, but I think sometimes it just stares at us right in the face. I don't like Jon Lester, but Jon Lester behind this St. Louis Cardinals team, they keep winning. I want to make it as simple as possible. I know we can sometimes overthink things like, hey, this winning streak isn't going to last. I get that, but if you look at it in just a single game context, I know I don't like John Lester, but St. Louis has been hitting the ball so well, and at minus 160, and they've won so many games. They're playing the Chicago Cubs, who have just been almost like the complete opposite of the Cardinals at this point, and at this point in the season. Minus 160, that is not a high enough of a price. I know Lester's not good, but just with these teams, the way they're going, I think with the way St. Louis is playing right now, I'm going to keep this one pretty simple and still look at it as a single game context instead of they're on a winning streak. It's got to end sometime soon. I know, and it could end this one. But I like the price, and they're going up against a team that I just think is absolutely horrible right now in the Cubs.
Yeah, and Adrian Sampson, I still remember, is north of 5 ERA in the Korean baseball organization, and that has scarred me for life, forever trying to target a team that winds up starting Adrian Sampson. So there's that aspect of it as well. And an aspect that is always great of this podcast is whenever we bring on Jon Jansen, because, John, you do absolutely terrific work over there with Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler, SiriusXM's fantasy coverage. I know you do some work over there with Win Daily Sports that's a little bit more fantasy football based. So let the good people at home know what you've all got going on right now and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, follow me at JJSN34. That's where you can see a lot of our stuff. And, of course, the line changed Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 at Fox PHL Gambler. And at Win Daily Sports, they have a good promo going on right now, and you can check it out over at windailysports.com. A lot of great stuff there in terms of NFL Sunday. So if you're looking for DFS plays, you're looking for anything Sunday morning while you're setting lineups, great show Sunday mornings at 11 a.m., and you can check it out at windailysports.com. So I definitely want to check out.
And John does a great job with that. He does a great job whenever he joins this podcast. His work over there in the Philadelphia area with Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler, top-notch as well. And it's always top-notch whenever we get him on the podcast. So big thanks to John for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you sign total on every game on the betting board for this Saturday. And a little something like to call Touch 'em All.
Welcome back to the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson as we're off to a quality start, and now it's time to walk it off in a grand fashion.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. Always great to be able to get Jon Jansen of Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler, SiriusXM's fantasy coverage, and so much more on this podcast. He always brings it, so big thanks to him for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you a sign total on every game on the betting board for this Saturday, and a little something like call Touch 'em All.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch 'em all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at gunit_81. We're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and any interleague games are going to be at the bottom. So without further ado, we're going to be kicking it off with that first National League game. 9:51, 9:52 on the betting board. The St. Louis Cardinals hit the road face-off against the Chicago Cubs. Adrian Sampson is going to be going for the Cubs. Jon Lester goes for the Cardinals, as I very nearly said that he was back on the Cubs, as you've got the Cardinals anywhere between minus 159 and minus 165 favorites. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Cubbies, you're going to be finding them anywhere between plus 145 and plus 152. No total currently up on this game. Bookmakers typically like to wait until the morning to be able to post subtotals on these Wrigley Field games because a lot of it depends on the win, but I do have a total on this game as I wound up setting this a little bit north of 10. I personally went 10.2, so a 10 or lower. I'm going to be taking a look at the over 10.5 higher. I'm going to be taking a look at the under, as it looks like we're going to have the wind blowing out in this one. And for both of these guys, they are guys that they wind up giving up the deep ball. Adrian Sampson has been actually surprisingly decent for the Cubs, but I think that we're going to be in for some massive regression as he's given up 5 home runs in his 25 and a third innings. But what has really helped him out is the fact that he's given up a bunch of solo shots. He's not gotten a lot of strikeouts, 17 punch outs in his 25 and a third innings. And then you take a look at Jon Lester, and he looks like a completely new pitcher right now. This is a man that has now given up 2 earned runs or fewer in every one of his 4 starts here in the month of September, and 2 earned runs or fewer in now 7 out of his last 8 starts. After in Washington, it looked like he was getting banged around like a piñata. Now, you take a look at Jon Lester, and on the road, he's got actually a very similar ERA to what he does at home, but he has given up 15 bombs in 57 and a third innings, and wind blowing out certainly going to be hurting both of these pitchers. As you take a look at both of these teams, and you do have a lot of guys that are getting on base for both sides. For the St. Louis Cardinals, Yadier Molina, Harrison Bader, Nolan Arenado, Tommy Edman, Umando Sosa, all guys hitting between, I would say, about a 254 to a 270. Jose Rondon is someone that you're able to throw in the mix. Tyler O'Neill, Paul Goldschmidt are both guys that have been able to give you 30 home runs. O'Neill's hitting right around 280. Goldschmidt is hitting at 290, but ever since the beginning of the month of July, that's like a 325 to a 330. He has been absolutely amazing. Then you take a look at the Cubs, and Frank Schwindel has been doing a nice job for you. 9 home runs over the last 3 days for this team, hitting at 340 going into game 2 of their double dip. Nico Horner is able to hit 300. He's off the injured list. Rafael Ortega is able to hit between a 275 to 280. Matt Duffy's been able to give you a little bit of something. And for Ian Happ, though he's only hitting at 225 for the year, he's got a double-digit amount of homers ever since the beginning of the month of August, has in this time span right around a 300 batting average. And then you got Patrick Wisdom. He's still giving you a home run every 12 or so. Bad things have dried up for him a little bit, but certainly has been solid. But then you take a look at both of the Romine, Sergio Alcantara, whenever Jason Hayward has been out there, Nick Martini, all these guys are hitting a 215 or lower. And with the Cubs, they certainly did have to go to their bullpen quite a bit yesterday, and you can't think that you're going to necessarily get a lot of length out of Adrian Hauser, so you're probably going to be looking to guys that wanted pitching yesterday, / guys like Michael Rucker, along with a Rowan Wicks, Scott Efros, and it's not necessarily too terrific. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, we do know that guys like Alex Reyes and company have been having their struggles, but they are now getting back Dakota Hudson, who's probably going to be coming out of the bullpen. Cody Whitley has been able to give you a little bit of something. TJ McFarland has been very solid, and then you got Giovanni Gallegos doing a good job in the closer's role. So I wound up saying the St. Louis Cardinals more around a minus 180 on the money line. When it comes to the run line, I'm willing to lay up to about a minus 125 in the spot. Currently don't have run lines just because we don't have totals currently, because it is a Wrigley Field game. But like I said, at 10 or lower, going to be taking a look at the over 10.5 or higher to the under 953, 954 on the betting board. You got the Philadelphia Phillies, and they are going to be playing us the Pittsburgh Pirates. William Caro is going to be going for the Buccos. Ranger Suarez is going to be on the bump for the Philadelphia Phillies. Phillies find themselves as a big favorite, anywhere between minus 252 and minus 265. Meanwhile, your plus price with the Pirates, anywhere between plus 215 and plus 229. 8.5 is your total, seeing a straight 9 out there as well. On the 9, under is minus 125. The over is plus 105. On the 8.5, over is between minus 110 and minus 120. Under is anywhere between even and minus 110. And for Mr. Crow, it certainly has been an up and down season for him, as he's been able to give you a little bit of something when it comes to swing and miss stuff, as his strikeouts per 9 rate is right around an 8.5. Big thing with him is that he's given up a little bit over 2 home runs per 9 innings, and on the road he has not been good. 6.53 ERA despite a 3-2 record, but with that said, 13 bombs given up in 51 innings, and opponents are at 295 off of him. Then you take a look at Ranger Suarez, and he has actually been really, really good. He's won at least 5 innings at each of the team's last 5 starts, so he has been stretched out. He's given up 2 runs or fewer in every one of them, and has given up 1 home run and 2 walks or fewer in every one of those starts. 1 total home run, I should say, in his last 5 starts. So he certainly has been able to do an absolutely amazing job. But then you take a look at the Philadelphia Phillies, and you just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of this offense, because they wound up having a nice outburst Thursday night, but they certainly have been inconsistent, as you do have GT Realmuto hitting right around 270. You've been able to get a little bit of something out of Odubel Herrera along with Freddie Galvis, both hitting between about a 245 to a 260. Bryce Harper has been amazing. 17 home runs ever since the beginning of the month of August. He's got a 430 on base. Gene Segura is hitting nearly a 300, but you need a little bit more out of Brad Miller, Andrew McCutchen, and Didi Gregorius. All these guys hitting below a 235 for McCutchen. He has been able to supply 24 home runs, 333 on base, but certainly has been a little bit of an issue. And then you take a look at the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Brian Reynolds has 24 bombs. He's hitting at 290, and then you don't have a single other guy on the roster currently, with Gregory Polanco on the injured list with a double-digit amount of homers. Ben Gamble's been able to get on base. He and Brian Hayes hitting between about a 250 to a 260. Colin Moran has been able to hit a 265, and Yoshi Satsugo has 8 home runs in something like 33, 34 games. Ever since getting to Pittsburgh, he's been hitting above a 300, so give him a little bit of credit. But then you got guys like Hoy Park, Michael Perez, and the list goes on and on of guys that they are hitting a 220 or lower. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, this is a bullpen that they certainly have been struck by injury. David Bernard might be able to come back towards the end of the year, but that's looking a little bit doubtful. Jason Shreve, Chris Strand have been able to give you a little bit of something, but when you've got guys like Nick Mears, the company coming out of the bullpen, that's not great. And the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen certainly has not been great. They've been using up Archie Bradley a lot recently. Sam Coonrod certainly has had his ups and his downs, but Ian Kennedy seems to be finding it a little bit more. And when it comes to the Philadelphia Phillies, I do think that they should be a sizable favorite in this spot. I was willing to take the Pittsburgh Pirates as long as I was getting north of a plus 220, though. Getting now a plus 229, I just don't have a lot of faith here in the Philadelphia Phillies. We've seen them really blow it in must-win games, so I'm going to actually take the plus price here with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Also wound up setting the total at an 8.4 because the Phillies offense has been slumping a little bit, so we're going to be going with that under, and I'm going to be going with the plus price with the Buccos. 955, 956 on the betting board. The Cincinnati Reds, yes, we are on the Cincinnati, and they're going to be playing against the Washington Nationals. Eric Fetty Wap is going to be going for the Nets. Vladimir Gutierrez is going to be on the bump for the Red Legs. The Reds are finding themselves anywhere between minus 141 and minus 165 favorites. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Nets, it's anywhere between plus 130 and plus 145. 9.5 is your total. Unders anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The overs anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. And for Mr. Fetty Wap, it certainly has been a little bit of an up and down season for him. Command can sometimes be lacking a little bit with him, but he's been able to rein it in a little bit more recently. He's been giving up a little bit over 3 walks per 9 innings, and home to road, he's really the same guy. 5.07 home ERA, 5.13 road ERA, has given up a couple more home runs on the road, but that's with more innings as well. Opponents are getting about a 271 off of him on the road, and then you take a look at Mr. Gutierrez, and he has actually been able to do his best work whenever he has been away from Cincinnati. 5.51 home ERA, 3.80 road ERA, giving up 13 home runs in 47 and a third innings at home, 7 home runs in 64 innings on the road, and opponents are getting a 295 off of him in Cincinnati, so that is something that you do want to note. And for the Reds, this is a bunch of which they have been dealing with quite a few injuries, as you've been without Jesse Winker along Taylor Naquin for quite a while, so as a result, you've been giving starts to the likes of a TJ Friedel who wound up getting the start yesterday. That's not necessarily what you want when you're trying to be able to track down a team like the Philadelphia Phillies and the St. Louis Cardinals to be able to make the postseason. Though I will say Max Schrock along with Nick Castellanos are both hitting above a 300, and then you've got Jonathan India, Kyle Farmer, Joey Votto owing between about a 260 to a 270 with India. He's got north of 20 home runs at the leadoff spot. Votto, Castellanos, both of these guys 29 plus home runs, both of these guys north of a 360 on base, and really with Schrock, Castellanos, Votto, and India, all at least a 355 on base, so that is solid, and the catcher spot in general has been very good for the team. But then you take a look at the Washington Nationals, and Juan Soto and Josh Bell both supplying the boom between 27 to 28 home runs apiece for Soto. A 470 on base. It is absolutely insane. Alcides Escobar is hitting at 285 for this team. Keibert Ruiz along with Jody Mercer both hitting above at 260, and for Ruiz, ever since he's really gotten opportunities, he's been able to shine over the last 3 days, hitting right around at 275 in the last 2 weeks. That's well north of a 300. Lane Thomas, ever since coming over to the Washington Nationals, has been hitting a 300 as well. So this is a Washington offense that has been very solid. Now, you take a look at the bullpen, you've been able to get a little bit of something out of Kyle Finnegan, but Ryan Harper seems to be dealing with some regression. Now, the good news is Wander Icewear, this guy sucks, is currently on the injured list, so you got a little bit of something there. And then when it comes to the Reds, I do think that Luis Sessa is going to be able to give you an inning or two in this spot. Michael Givens, he has been giving you a whole lot of something. Brad Brock has been a little bit banged up, but Lucas Sims, ever since he wound up having a rough start to the year, he's been able to pick it up a little bit as well. So as a result, I wound up sending the Reds as more around a minus 190 favorite on the money line. If you're taking a look at the run line, you're getting this between a plus 115 to a plus 125. I do think that we're going to be seeing quite a few runs in this game. I set this total at 9.6, so I'm going to be going over, and I'm also going to be going with that Reds run line. 957, 958 on the betting board. The New York Mets are going to be in the road to face off against the Milwaukee Brewers. One Corbin Burns, because for some reason I always think that his name should be said in an old English accent. Going to be going for the Brewers. Rich Hill is going to be going for the Mets. Currently, the only place I'm seeing a line on this game is DraftKings, and DraftKings has the Brewers at minus 260, plus 210 on the Metropolitan. 7.5 is your total. Under is minus 125, and the over is plus 105. For one, this is actually a very critical start if you have a futures ticket on Corbin Burns to win the Cy Young, because he could really use a nice one here. He has been solid all year long for Corbin Burns. Fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings. He's given up 6 home runs at 158 innings. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous, but he's actually been worse at home than he's been on the road. He's 7-0 with a .164 ERA on the road, 3-4 with a 2.98 ERA at home. Now, he deserves better than a 3-4 record at home, but still, it's been very stark. He has been giving up a couple more walks per 9 innings at home as well. A ghastly 2.4, 2.5-ish, so I mean, he has been really, really good, and his strikeouts per 9 rate is insane. Then you take a look at Rich Hill, and ever since he's gotten to the Mets, he has yet to win a decision, but he hasn't been too bad for him. 6 home runs given up in 53 and a third innings. His walks per 9 rate is hovering right around 2. He's been able to give you right around 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3.88 ERA. Hasn't been great, hasn't been terrible. He's given up 3 runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts, so he's been pretty steady there. Team just hasn't supplied him with a lot of run support, as the team has scored 3 runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts, and that's really been the bugaboo for the Mets in general. You've got 2 guys in Javi Baez and Pete Alonso that both have at least 31 home runs, both hitting between about a 255 to a 265. Then you've got a couple guys in Jeff McNeil, Jonathan VR, both hitting in that pocket about a 255, but you just need a little bit more out of some of these other guys. James McCann, and the catcher spot in general is hitting right around at 235 to a 240. Michael Conforto's still hitting at 225. Francisco Lindor has picked it up a little bit. He had that 3 home run game against the New York Yankees, but still hitting at 232. You expect more out of him. Brandon Nimmo sitting at 300. And then for the Milwaukee Brewers, this is a bunch in which they've really been scuffling on offense recently, but they've got a lot of guys hitting between, I would say, about a 262 to a 280. Omir Narvaez, you're able to throw in there Avisail Garcia. William Thomas overall for the year, though, with the Brewers, hitting more like a 285. Colton Wong, so got a lot of guys in that pocket with Garcia, 29 home runs. Eduardo Escobar is hitting about a 245. He's went deep 28 times. Lorenzo Cain's been able to supply with a little bit of something, but Christian Yelich, his on-base percentage is right around a 370, but he's still only hitting at 240 for the year with 8 home runs. It has been very tough for him. This Brewers bullpen by and large for the year has been good, but Jake Cousins has shown a little bit of regression. Brad Boxberger has had a bad couple of weeks as well, but you still have Devin Williams, Josh Hader, and for the Mets, Aaron Loup has right around a 1 ERA. You've seen a few guys like Miguel Castro have a little bit of regression recently as well. Trevor May has had his ups and his downs, but if I'm getting a plus 210 here with the Mets, I'm willing to take it. I was willing to take pretty much anything above $2, and I wound up saying this total a little bit closer to 8.5 because of the fact that I think that both of these bullpens are getting a little bit burnt up. So on this DraftKings line of 7.5, I'm going to be taking that over, and if I'm able to get $2 or greater, going to be taking a shot here on the Mets. 959, 960 on the betting board. Got no numbers for this one as the Atlanta Braves hit the road to face off against the Slam Diego Padres. Good old to be determined is going to be going for the Padres. Scotty Yanoa is going to be going for the Atlanta Braves. With Yanoa, you know what? He hasn't necessarily been great, and he hasn't been terrible since coming off the injured list. And for the Padres, it is anyone's flipping guess as to who they're going to be throwing out there because they have just run out of starters. They've been using Vince Velasquez for starts. They wound up designating for assignment good old Jake Arrieta. Oh, gosh, and the fact that he was getting starts, I mean, I would probably take a bullpen game before I would take Jake Arrieta, so that's actually a little bit of an upgrade for them. But you take a look at Mr. Yanoa, he has given up between 2 and 3 runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts ever since coming off the injured list. He hasn't given up a home run in each out of his last 3 starts, given up approximately 2 walks in every one of them. And you take a look at Yanoa overall for the season, he's been doing a little bit worse on the road than he has been at home. 260 home ERA, 446 road ERA, but he's only made 7 starts on the road so far this year, and he's given up 5 home runs in both environments. It's just the fact that opponents are getting a 261 off of him on the road compared to more like a $168 at home. Then you take a look at the San Diego Padres, and this is a lineup in which it has certainly been up and down. Now, Fernando Tatis Jr. hitting at 285 with 40 home runs. That is very good for the team, but ever since coming over from the Pittsburgh Pirates, you've got Adam Frazier who's been hitting in that pocket of about a 265. You just expect a little bit more out of him. You've got Jake Cronenworth, Eric Hosmer, along with Manny Machado, all in between about a 265 to a 280. We got Machado with 24 home runs. I know that he's been a little bit banged up, so that is a tad bit of an issue. Austin Nola's been banged up. He's hitting about a 270, and then got a lot of guys that are getting on base that have right around like a 240-ish batting average. Rickson Profar, Tommy Pham, Trent Grisham, all in between a 234 to a 239, all with at least a 327 on base, but they haven't necessarily been able to supply the deep ball, and going into the series, they've scored the fewest runs per game of any team in the National League since the beginning of the month of August. Meanwhile, with the Atlanta Braves, you just got the MASH crew on this team, as you've got all these guys that have provided you with at least 30 home runs so far this year. Ozzie Albies, Adam Duvall, Austin Riley, Freddie Freeman. With Riley and Freeman, both of these guys are hitting right around a 300. Dansby Swanson, 26 bombs. He's hitting at 245. Orde Soler, he's been able to pick it up, hitting about at 260. He's got 23 home runs overall for the season, so that has been good for this team. Then you've got a Braves bullpen that has been gaining steam ever since having a rough start to begin the year. Luke Jackson has been able to give you some good innings. I like what I'm seeing right now out of someone like a Richard Rodriguez. AJ Minter has come off the injured list. He's looked a little bit more like his normal self, as over the last 15 days, he's got a 2.25 ERA. So I take a look at the spot, and I'm probably going to be making the Atlanta Braves something like a minus 140-ish favorite if we wind up getting a bullpen game, because I just have no faith in the San Diego Padres at this point. This team has just been a completed under dumpster fire, and there's no reason to think otherwise. And this is probably a spot in which I'll probably be taking a look at an 8 or lower to the over, 8.5 or higher to the under, but that is subject to a little bit of change based on what the Padres do with their pitching staff. 961, 962 on the betting board. The San Francisco Giants hit the road to face off against the Colorado Rockies. 55 shades of John Gray is going to be going for the Rockies. Anthony DeScalfani is going to be on the bump for the Giants. The Giants are finding themselves anywhere between minus 140, minus 155 favorites. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Rockies, it is anywhere between plus 129 and plus 135. Between 11.5 and 12 is your total. On the 12, the under is minus 115, the over is minus 105. On the 11.5, the over is minus 120, and the under is even. And for John Gray, it certainly has been an up and down season for him, but he's been able to do a very good job at Coors Field so far this year, and throughout his career, he's been pretty solid at Coors Field. 3.79 home ERA, 4.59 road ERA, giving up 10 home runs in 73 in the third innings at home, with opponents hitting just a 201 off of him. Walks per 9 rate, that is something that you want to monitor. He's giving up right around 4 walks per 9 innings, so that is a little bit of something. And then you take a look at Anthony DeScalfani, and he has been pretty amazing on the road. 3.16 road ERA, 3.33 home ERA, has given up 15 home runs in 91 innings on the road compared to 4 bombs in 67 and 2/3 innings at home. As we know, San Francisco can be a little bit more pitcher friendly, but certainly has been able to do a very good job for this San Francisco Giants team. As you take a look at what he's been able to do here in the month of September across his 4 starts, he has allowed a grand total of 6 runs. The team has been able to go 3-1 in these starts, so he's been able to do a nice job there. Has allowed just 1 home run over the course of his last 4 starts as well. And then he's backed up by a San Francisco Giants bullpen that it has been used for quite a few innings, but these guys have been able to hold up. Kervin Castro has been sent up from the minor leagues, and he has been amazing. Jordan Garcia is giving you some good innings. Dominique Leon, Zach Liddell, these guys have all been able to hold up at the point of attack. They've got a Colorado Rockies bunch of which they have been better at home than they have been on the road. Daniel Bard has like an 8.5 ERA on the road, and it's like a 3.3 at home. It's absolutely amazing. Lucas Gilbreth at home, a sub-3 ERA, so got a little bit of something there. And for the Colorado Rockies, this is a team that no doubt they've been much better offensively at home than they have been on the road. Romeo Tapia being back to the fold is nice for this team. You got CJ Cron, who out of his 27 home runs, 18 of them have come at Coors Field. Elias Diaz has been able to do a good job of being able to slide the boom at home. 18 total home runs, but you take a look at what he's been able to do at home, and at home so far this year, he's been able to hit more in the neighborhood of about 268 compared to the Mendoza line of a 200 on the road. Trevor Story also hits right around like a 200 on the road as well, so that's something to take note of. But then you've got a San Francisco Giants team, which you've got all these guys with at least 18 home runs. Lamonte Wade, Brandon Belt, Buster Posey, Chris Bryant, Mike Yastrzemski, Brandon Crawford. It is absolutely insane. And then you throw in there someone like an Evan Longoria, who's got 13 home runs, hitting at 285 and just 224 at bats. Tommy Lascelles come off the injury list. He's been able to provide you a little bit of something. This is a spot in which I do think that the San Francisco Giants should be a relatively sizable favorite. I wound up setting them personally as a minus 152, so seeing the minus 140, we'll take a shot there. If you're looking at the run line, you're going to be finding this right around even money to a minus 105 because the totals are so high at Coors Field. Not a lot of value there. I would be willing to lay up to a minus 108 on the run line, but I feel a little bit better with the minus 140 money line personally because I did wind up setting this total at 10.7 as well. So diving under and going with that Giants money line, 963, 964 on the betting board. The Arizona Diamondbacks going to be playing with the LA Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw is going to be going for the Dodgers. Zach Gallen is going to be on the bump for the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are a big underdog of anywhere between plus 207 and plus 220. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Dodgers, anywhere between 229 and minus 275 is your price. 9 to 8.5 is your total. On the 8.5, over is between minus 115 and minus 120. The under is anywhere between even and minus 105. On the 9, the over is anywhere between even and plus 105. The under is anywhere between minus 120 and minus 125. And for Clayton Kershaw, ever since coming off the injured list, he hasn't necessarily been pitching a bunch of extended innings or anything like that, but he's been relatively solid. He has now made, since coming off the injured list, 2 starts. He wound up going 4 1/3 innings against the Arizona Diamondbacks, giving up a run, went on the road to Cincinnati, gave up 1 run in 5 innings, so nothing really bad to say there. He's not giving up a home run, 1 walk, 13 strikeouts over the course of 9 1/3 innings, so he looks like Clayton Kershaw like he did before the season. Not necessarily vintage Clayton Kershaw from like 2017 or anything like that, but certainly a very solid pitcher that this team is going to be able to rely upon in the postseason. Then you take a look at Zach Gallen. He's given up 3 runs or more now each out of his last 4 starts. It has been a cataclysmically bad year for him. He's given up right around 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. I actually like Zach Gallen, by the way, but he's given up 3.8 walks per 9 innings. And you take a look at what he's done in Arizona, very similar to on the road. 4.50 home ERA, 4.55 road ERA, giving up 9 bombs in 50 innings while he's been at home. So that certainly has been a little bit of an issue. And he has to go up against an LA Dodgers team in which you've got a whole bunch of mashers. You've got Trey Turner down for what? Justin Turner down for what? Mookie Betts, Chris Taylor, Will Smith. all these guys hitting at least 20 home runs, and then you got A.J. Pollock off the injured list. He's hitting at 300. He's been able to give you 16 home runs. Corey Seager is starting to pick it up as well. I mean, the worst batting average among position players that was in the starting lineup yesterday was Gavin Lux at a 246. So, I mean, you've got that going on. Meanwhile, you've got the Arizona Diamondbacks, who does not have a single player with more than 12 home runs on the roster. Now, you've got 5 guys with between 11 and 12 in Josh Rowaski, Del Marte, Dalton Varsho, Pavin Smith, and Carson Kelly. But still, I mean, you do have Mr. Marte of the Marte Parte hitting at 325. And then you got David Peralta, Pavin Smith, Josh Rojas. These guys are in between about a 255 to a 270. But you haven't been able to get a lot there. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, this is a bullpen that is not very good, to say the least. Luis Frias, I don't think, is the answer for this team. Sean Poppin has seen his ERA popping north of 5. So, yeah, that going on. Noe Ramirez has been able to give you a little bit something, but Brett guys, a 70 ERA for the Dodgers. Second best bullpen ERA in the big leagues. I do realize that Phil Bickford, Justin Brule, Alex Vesia, these guys might be doing for a little bit of regression, but Corey Knebel, Blake Tryon, these guys are veterans. Bersuter Gratterall has been able to provide you with some very good innings as well, as he, over the last 15 days, his last 3 appearances, has yet to give up a run, so that has been pretty rock solid. I do take a look at the Dodgers in this spot, and I look more at the run line here. It is anywhere between about a minus 135 to a minus 145-ish. I was willing to lay up to about a minus 142, so I'm going to be taking that run line of the Dodgers. I set them more around a minus 230 when it came to the money line, and with this total, I wound up setting it at an 8 because I like the way that Kershaw has come off the injured list, and I do think that Gallen is going to lend a decent start. So going under, and I'm going to be going with that Dodgers run line, 965, 966 on the betting board. The Houston Astros hit the road face off against the Oakland A's. Sean Manaea is going to be going for the A's. Framber Valdez is going to be on the bump for the Astros. Relative pick'em game here, with the Astros finding them as bad as a minus 110, and you're finding them as good as a minus 103. With the A's as bad as a minus 110, as good as a minus 101. 8 to 8.5 is your total. On the 8.5, under is minus 120, and the over is even. On the 8, over is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. Under is anywhere between even and minus 105. And for Framber Valdez, I feel like he should be the favorite in this spot because you take a look at what he's been able to do, especially on the road, and he has been relatively rock solid. Meanwhile, Sean Manaea, you saw what he wound up doing in the month of August, has been a little bit better here in the month of September, but it certainly has not been good, as ever since the beginning of the month of August, he's got an ERA that is hovering right in that pocket of about a 7, as he had a 9.90 ERA in the month of August. Had a couple of good starts to be able to begin September, but now he's given up a combined 9 runs in his last 10 innings across his last 2 starts, so that is a little bit of an issue. It's not necessarily that he's given up a bunch of homers. He's only given up 2 home runs this month, but guys have just figured him out. He's not getting as much swings and misses, a combined 6 strikeouts in his last 2 starts, so that certainly has been an issue. And you take a look at Sean Manaea, and he's actually been worse at home than he has been on the road. A 4.10 home ERA, a 3.99 road ERA, giving up 14 home runs in 90 innings at home, with opponents starting at 278 off of him. Then you take a look at Mr. Valdez. I was mentioning his home and road splits, and his ERA on the road, a 3.03 compared to a 3.12 at home. He's given up 5 homers, both at home and on the road, so he has been relatively rock solid. Now, his walks per 9 rate being right around about a 4.5-ish is not necessarily too terrific, but he's backed up by a lineup for this Houston Astros team that is very good, as you've got a quadrant of guys with at least a 275 batting average and with at least 24 home runs. And Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve, Kyle Tucker, and Yordan Alvarez. These guys have been great. Yuli Gurriel, he's been able to give you right around a 315 batting average, even with Michael Brantley being on the injured list. Guys like a Jose Ziri have been able to step up for you. Jake Myers has been able to do a solid job for this team as well. Almendy Diaz, whenever called upon, he's been able to give you some good at-bats. And for the Houston Astros, this is a bullpen that has been shaping up recently. Kendall Graveman, a sub-2 ERA for the year. Yimi Garcia has had his ups and downs ever since coming over to the Houston Astros, but you do take a look at Ryan Presley. I think that he's going to be able to give you a couple good innings. Blake Taylor has been able to do a solid job as well. Then with the Oakland A's, ever since really the middle of the month of August, so over the last, I would say, 5 weeks, this team has an ERA north of 5. We have seen Lou Trevino just really poop the bed recently. Jake Diekman wound up having a very bad series against the Seattle Mariners. You've got Yasmero Petit, who's been relatively rock solid for this team, but Sergio Romo, after looking very good in June and July, he has regressed as well. Then you take a look at this Oakland A's lineup, and you do have quite a few guys that are doing a solid job of being able to get on base for you. Josh Harrison, Starling Marte of the Marte Parte, Mark Canha, Matt Olson, all these guys have at least a 350 on base. You're able to throw in there Tony Kemp as well. Jan Gomes along with Mr. Kemp, both hitting between about a 255 to 260. Olson, 38 home runs. And for Matt Chapman, his on base ever since the beginning of the month of August, that has been hovering in the neighborhood about a 350, and he has been able to supply 12 home runs in that time span. But then you've also got just all the issues that are going on with this Oakland team, as they just haven't necessarily been great at home. And I take a look at the spot, I think that the Astros should be be a favorite. Sean Manaea has certainly been struggling, so set the Astros as more around a minus 126 favorite. Made the total 9.2 with Manaea's struggles as well. So going to be going over to go along with the Astros on the money line. And now we go to the New York Post play of the day of 967, 968 as the Boston Red Sox going to be playing us the New York Yankees. Nestor Cortez is going to be going for the Yankees. Nick Pivetta is going to be on the bump for the Red Sox. Red Sox anywhere between minus 112 and minus 117 favorites. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Yankees, you're going to be getting them anywhere between a plus 107 to a minus 105. 10.5 is your total. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And the New York Post play today is going to be the New York Yankees on the money line because Nick Pivetta stinks at Boston. I mean, it's been absolutely insane to watch him pitch at Fenway compared to on the road, because on the road, Nick Pivetta has actually been relatively good. At home, he's got a 5.69 ERA, somehow, someway a 5-2 record, but he's given up 17 home runs in 68 innings. And opponents are getting a 2.69 off of him. That shrinks to a 2.09 with 6 bombs allowed in 76 innings whenever he's on the road, and he's got a better strikeout to walk rate whenever he's been on the road as well, which I don't know how that works, but it does. And then you take a look at Nestor Cortez, and he's given up 3 runs or fewer in all but one of his appearances so far this year, so he's been pretty steady Eddie there now. He has been giving up the deep ball recently. He's given up at least 1 home run in each out of his last 5 starts, so that is something that you want to monitor. And for that matter, he's actually given up at least 1 home run in every one of his starts ever since the beginning of the month of August, but he's been able to do a good job of being able to limit those to solo shots. Then you take a look at this Boston Red Sox team, and certainly you do have a bunch that is able to go deep on the New York Yankees, as you've got a guy in Kike Hernandez who is back. He's hitting at 250. He's been able to supply some boom with 18 home runs. You've got Hunter Renfroe. You're able to throw in there Kyle Schwarber along with Rafael Devers. All these guys have been able to go deep for at least 27 home runs so far this year. You're able to throw in there JD Martinez as well. Xander Bogaerts is hitting right around 323 home runs, so you've got a lot of good guys there. And for Bobby Dahlbeck, he has really been under the radar for this team. He's got overall for the year 23 home runs, but over the last 30 days going into yesterday, 9 home runs at a 333 batting average, so he's heated up. But then you take a look at the New York Yankees, and you've got a trio of guys with at least 30 home runs on this roster in Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, and Joey Gallo. Now, with Gallo, you're able to throw in there Brett Gardner, Kyle Higashioka, Gary Sanchez, got quite a few guys in at 225 or lower, but DJ LeMahieu, along with Gleyber Torres, Gio Urshela, along between about a 258 to a 70 for this bunch. Anthony Rizzo is hitting right around 250. Hasn't necessarily supplied a bunch of homers, but he has been a good clubhouse presence for this team. Then you take a look at the Boston Red Sox, and bullpen has looked a little bit better recently, but you have seen a little bit of shakiness. Ryan Brazier, since coming off of the injured list, has right around a 3 ERA, so he's been able to help out. Adam Ottavino has had his ups and downs. Anser Robles has looked a little bit better, but then you've got a Yankees team that they are starting to have Aroldis Chapman look a little bit more like his normal self. You're going to be able to utilize Luis Severino out of the bullpen, Wandy Peralta along Joely Rodriguez. Over the last 30 days, these guys have been significantly better than they were at the beginning of the year. For Rodriguez, a 2.45 ERA over the last 30 days. So I do take a look at this spot, and I think that Nick Pivetta, who in the season series wound up giving up 4 runs and provided his team with 5 outs overall, I think is going to get lit up in this spot. So I wound up setting the New York Yankees as a favorite. So New York Post today is going to be the Yankees on the money line. I did wind up setting the total at a 9.8 because I do think that Cortez is going to be able to do a solid job along with both of these bullpens. So diving under along the New York Post today of the Yankees. 969, 970 on the betting board. You got the Kansas City Royals in the road face-off against the Detroit Tigers. John Hazley is going to be going for the Royals. Meanwhile, Tarik Skubal is going to be on the bump for the Tigres. The Tigers find themselves as way too short of a favorite, anywhere between minus 127 to minus 130. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Royals, you're going to be getting them anywhere between plus 110 and plus 120. 9 is your total. The over and the under are anywhere between minus 105 and minus 115. I just have absolutely no idea how Mr. Hazley is such a short underdog at this point, because you take a look at what he wound up doing at the minor league level, and I'm just sort of shrugging my head here, and I'm like, what the heck? He wound up having a 7-3 record while he was down there with Northwest Arkansas, which is a Double-A team, and he wound up giving up a home run and a half per 9 innings in that time span. So, I mean, this isn't a guy that necessarily was lighting it up when it came to the minor league level. He winds up going from Double-A all the way up to the big leagues, and oh, guess what? He winds up getting shelled in his first start. He winds up going 4 innings, giving up 4 runs and a pair of bombs. Shock, shock, surprise, surprise. And then you got a guy in Tarik Skubal. You can tell that he's currently on an innings limit. The Tigers are currently limiting the innings that Skubal along with Casey Mize wind up throwing. So this is probably going to be a spot in which you're going to see Tarik Skubal for like 3 innings. Maybe you see him for 2. Maybe they let him go a little bit further, but he has went 3 innings in each out of his last 3 starts, giving up 2, 0, and 2 runs in this time span. So you can tell that it's a little bit more sporadic. But the good news with the Tigers is that they've got a top 10 bullpen in the big leagues ever since the All-Star break. And to the Royals' credit, they do as well. As for the Detroit Tigers, you've been doing a little bit of mixing and matching recently, but Michael Fulmer, Jason Foley, these guys have been able to provide you with some good innings. Gregory Soto is currently on the injured list along with Jose Cicero, but Drew Hutchinson has actually been able to do a solid job for this team. Then you take a look at the Kansas City Royals, and Domingo Tapia has really surprised me with how well he's been able to pitch. Joel Payampas, he's someone with an ERA that hovers right around 3.13. Jake Brent, Scott Parles, they've been able to do the job. And then you take a look at the Kansas City Royals, and you've got Salvador Perez, who entered into Friday, tied for the league lead in home runs with 46, over 110 RBI. He, Whit Merrifield, are a pair of guys in between about a 275 to 280, along with Andrew Benintendi, and Kyle Isbell has been hitting right around 280 as well. You need a little bit more out of Carlos Santana, Ryan O'Hearn, Hunter Dozier. These guys are in between about a 210 to a 220, but Nicky Lopez is hitting above the 300 whenever you've trotted him out there. Answer Alberto along with Adalberto Mondesi. These guys are in right around 265. And then for the Detroit Tigers, the offense has really been regressing a little bit for this team. Jonathan Scope, Robbie Grossman, Eric Haas, all 3 of these guys have been failing to provide home runs recently. They've all got between 20 and 23 for the year. And then you do have Jamie Candelario along with Robbie Grossman, both having between about a 350 to a 355 on base. Akil Baddoo is hitting at 260. You've got Victor Reyes, Derek Hill whenever he's out there, hitting in that pocket of 250 to a 260 as well. Harold Castro has been able to give you a little bit of something, but certainly hasn't necessarily been an offensive explosion. I just think that the guy that winds up getting exploded upon is Mr. Hazley. I haven't necessarily been too impressed by the Tigers' offense recently, but I feel good enough to make the Tigers about a minus 170 favorite. I have no faith in Hazley giving you anything whatsoever. I wound up saying this all at 8.8, so we're going to be taking the Tigers on the money line, and we're going to be taking the total under because I do think that the Tigers are going to be able to do a good job of holding down the fort, and then the bullpen, after Hazley winds up getting destroyed, winds up piecing this together. 971, 972 on the betting board. The Baltimore Orioles are going to be playing against the Walker Texas Rangers. Jordan Lyles is going to be going for the Rangers. Chris Ellis is going to be going for the Orioles. Orioles are anywhere between minus 137 and minus 145 favorites. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the Rangers, between plus 125 and plus 130 is your price. 8.5 is your total. Overs between minus 115 and minus 120. Unders anywhere between even and minus 110. For Jordan Lyles, he has given up the deep ball this year. As in 166 and a third innings, he has given up 37 home runs, and his walks per 9 rate, well, congratulations, that is hovering right in the pocket of about a 3, and he's actually done his worst work on the road. A 5.68 road ERA, giving up 20 home runs in 80 and 2/3 innings. That's about 2.15 home runs per 9 innings. Opponents starting at 275 off of him. That's not great. And for Chris Ellis, he has been a bright spot in what has been a sea of just absolute poop for this team. The team has won each out of his last 3 starts, 4 out of 5 overall, and he's given up 2 runs or fewer in each out of his last 4 starts. He has actually been very good for the team. Now, the walks are a little bit high. He has given up a combined 11 walks in his last 3 starts, so that is going to be a little bit of an issue, but he is going to be backed up by an offense of the Baltimore Orioles that has actually been relatively solid. We saw them be able to score quite a few runs yesterday. You've got Ryan Mountcastle along with Cedric Mullins, both giving you 30-plus home runs, and then you've got Austin DeSay's kid, Trey Boom Boom Mancini, both of these guys with right around 22 home runs. You've got Mountcastle, Hayes, Mancini, all in between about a 250 to a 260. You're able to throw in the Richie Martin as well. Cedric Mullins, more like a 300. Pedro Severino, along with Anthony Santana, hitting more like a 242, 250, but then you do have the slugs, Ryan McKenna, Pat Valleca, Domingo Leyba, Calvin Gutierrez, TJ Stewart, Austin Wins, these guys hitting at 220 or lower, but then with the Texas Rangers, you certainly have your slugs with this team as well. Leody Taveras, Jonah Heim, DJ Peters, list goes on and on of guys hitting a 215 or lower. I will say for Peters, 8 home runs in the team's last 30 days, and you do have Adolis Garcia. He has been able to give the team 30 home runs overall this year, but he did a lot of his damage early. You take a look at what he's done recently, and he's got 3 home runs in the last 3 days, so it's not necessarily been too terrific. You do have Andy Ibanez, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, along Nate Lowe, hitting between about a 260 to a 272 for this bunch, and then Charlie Culverson, Nick Solak, hitting in the neighborhood of about a 235, but then you've got a Texas Rangers bullpen that I have a little bit more faith in than the Baltimore Orioles. Joe Barlow is right around 2 ERA. Spencer Patton has been able to do a little bit of something. Brett Martin has been able to give you some good innings for the Orioles. Cole Sulzer has been nice for the team, but then past that, you just don't know what you're going to be able to get. Joey Cabrillo is someone that they're going to be kicking the tires on. Dylan Tate to be able to give you a little bit of something. Connor Wade has not been great. Connor Green has not been great. Marco Zaplan, Fernando Abad have been very Abad for this team. But with that said, I think that Chris Ellis is going to be able to deliver a good start. I think that Jordan Lyles continues to wind up giving up bombs. I'm going to be setting this all at an 8.3 because I do think that a lot of those homers are going to be solo home runs, so I'm going to be going under. And the Rangers, they wound up entering into yesterday having scored 3 runs or fewer in 9 straight games, which I think is absolutely insane. So we're going to be going with the Orioles on the money line to go along with this total under 973, 974 on the betting board. Minnesota Twins are going to be playing us the Toronto Blue Jays. Robbie Ray is going to be going for the Jays, and the Twins are currently with a to be determined pitcher, so we've got no numbers up on this game. For Robbie Ray, I'm probably going to be setting him as a sizable favorite. It's just one of these situations in which I need to know what the Minnesota Twins are going to be trotting out there because they could literally do anything in this spot. We've seen Andrew Albers go out there, and if it's like Andrew Albers, for example, I'll probably be setting the Blue Jays as right around a $2 favorite. If they wind up going with a bullpen game with like Ralph Garza Jr., Luke Farrell, and guys like this piecemealing it together, maybe it's more like a minus 160 as Robbie Ray has been very solid all year long, giving up 3 runs or fewer in 19 out of his last 20 starts, but he has seen a little bit of regression recently. He has failed to complete 5 innings in 2 out of his last 3 starts, giving up a combined 4 home runs in this time span after he was really able to do a good job of being able to limit the deep ball during the summer months. So that is something that I do take a look at. And for Ray, on the road, 3.29 ERA compared to a 2.28 at home, has given up 16 home runs in 79 and a third innings. So that has been a little bit of a bugaboo for him. And then you take a look at the Minnesota Twins, and this is a lineup that I wouldn't say that it's great, but you've got a couple landmines that you need to avoid. Miguel Sano has 29 home runs. Ode Polanco, 31 bombs. He's hitting right around 275. Josh Donaldson has a 350 on base. He's went deep 24 times, but then with Mr. Sano, you're able to throw in there Brent Rooker, Rafael Jeffers, along with Max Kepler, Jake Cave, and Andrelton Simmons. List goes on and on. Ben Roadfit, guys hitting at 225 or lower, so that is no doubt an issue, but Luis Rise hitting about a 280 for this bunch. Byron Buxton says coming off the injured list has not been the same, but he's starting to provide a little bit of something, but then you've got a Blue Jays team in which you got Vlad Guerrero Jr., who entered in yesterday with 46 bombs, 322 batting average. He's going for that triple crown. He has been very amazing. Santiago Espinal, Bo Bichette, both hitting right around 290 with Bichette, 26 home runs, 30 home runs for Teoscar Hernandez. He's hitting at 300. George Springer, since coming off the injured list, has not necessarily looked great, but you've got Marcus Semien with north of 40 homers and hitting at 270 himself. And for the Blue Jays, this is a bullpen that has been relatively solid. I do like what I've seen out of Tim Mazza recently, right around 2 ERA over the last 3 days. Nate Pearson has not looked like the guy that we were hoping he would. Joaquin Soria is a guy that they're going to be kicking the tires on as well, but Adam Simber has looked very good over the last 3 days. He wound up having a little bit of a rough stretch about a month and a half ago. Over the last 3 days and 11 appearances, he has not allowed an earned run, so you give him quite a bit of credit. So this is a spot in which if Robbie Ray winds up going up against like Andrew Albers, I'll probably be setting the Blue Jays as north of a $2 favorite, and if he winds up going up against a little bit more of a respectable guy, probably would be looking a little bit lower. And with Ray versus like a bullpen game, this would probably be a spot in which an 8.5 or lower, I'd be taking a look at the over, a 9 or higher to the under. But jump back in the morning, but Twitter feed at Jaron Scorty1 once we know what the Twins are going to be doing. 975, 976 on the betting board. The Chicago White Sox hit the road face off against the Cleveland Indians as Eli Morgan is going to be going for the Indians. Lance Lynn is going to be on the bump for the White Sox. White Sox are anywhere between minus 175 and minus 187 favorites. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Indians, anywhere between plus 155 and plus 172 is your price. 8.5 is your total. Over is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. The under is anywhere between even and minus 105. And for Eli Morgan, it has been all about him giving up the deep ball at this point. He's actually done a good job of being able to limit the walks as his walks per 9 rate is hovering right in the neighborhood of about 2-ish, as in 77 and 2/3 innings he's given up 21 walks, so more like 2.3 walks, but 18 home runs surrendered. That is not necessarily great. And for Lance Lynn, you can tell that he's been banged up in recent weeks, so that is something that you do want to monitor. But in his last start, looked very solid. Wound up giving up 1 earned run, 2 runs in total against the Texas Rangers. That wound up being a 2-1 loss for him, but you did take a look at it, and he's really given up 1 earned run or fewer despite being banged up in now 5 out of his last 7 starts. So even despite the fact that he hasn't necessarily looked like himself, he's been able to do a good job of being able to go out there. You take a look at Lance Lynn on the road so far this year, and he's got a 2.25 ERA compared to a 2.60 at home in 10 road starts, has given up just 3 home runs in 56 innings as well, so that is something that you do like to see. Meanwhile, for Eli Morgan, you take a look at what he's been able to do in Cleveland, and he has been just lit up like a Christmas tree. 8.31 ERA compared to a 3.03 on the road. I'm not sure how that works out, but he's given up 12 bombs in 39 innings, and opponents are getting a 313 off of them. Then you got a White Sox lineup in which you do have a lot of landmines that you need to avoid. Tim Anderson hitting right around a 305 for this bunch. Luis Robert is hitting a 350, and then you got Eloy Jimenez, Yoel Moncada, Jose Abreu, Lori Garcia, all these guys hitting between about a 250 to a 265-ish. With Mr. Abreu, he has been in the top 3 with regards to RBI all season long. Home run power has went down a little bit, but he's still approaching 30 bombs. You got Cesar Hernandez along with Kevin Sheets, Andrew Vaughn, lying between about a 232, 240 for Vaughn and Hernandez. Both of these guys 15 plus home runs as well. Whenever you've had Yasmani Grandal out there, he's been amazing. He's been getting a home run every 8 or so at bats since coming off the injured list. And then with Cleveland Indians, you've got Franmil Reyes, Jose Ramirez, along with Miles Straw, lying between about a 255 to a 265. Harold Ramirez is someone that you're able to throw in there as well. For Jose and Franmil Reyes, you've got both of these guys with 30 plus home runs, but you need a little bit more out of quite a few of these guys, as you got Yu Chang, Bobby Bradley, Bradley Zimmer, lying between about a 215 to a 225. And then you've got Roberto Perez, Austin Edges, Oscar Mercado, Owen Miller, only at 220 or lower. So that certainly has been an issue for the Cleveland Indians. Emmanuel Clase has been amazing out of the bullpen, but they're dealing with injuries to guys like James Karinchak, Nick Samlin. So that's been a little bit of an issue. Blake Parker has been able to give you a tad bit of something. And for the Cleveland Indians, they do have to go up against a bullpen of the White Sox that includes Liam Hendricks along Craig Kimbrell. These guys are absolutely lights out. Jose Ruiz has been able to do a solid job for this team. Aaron Bummer has been a little bit of a bummer, and Ryan Burr recently has had his ups and his downs. But for Mr. Burr, you take a look at what he's done over the last 30 days. He has a 2.35 ERA, so he is starting to rein it in. So this is a spot in which I do feel like the Cleveland Indians should be a very sizable underdog. I set them at a plus 186. If you're taking a look at the run line in this spot, you're finding it with the White Sox in between minus 105 to a minus 110. I was willing to lay at minus 120, so we're going to be taking a shot there. And when it comes to this total, I set it at an 8.7 because I do think that Morgan is going to be giving up some bombs. So going over along with the White Sox, run line 977, 978 on the betting board. You've got the Seattle Mariners in the road face-off against the LA Angels. To be determined is right now listed on the betting board for the Angels. I am seeing Aime Barria currently going on ESPN. Meanwhile, Tyler Anderson is going to be going for the Seattle Mariners. As of right now, DraftKings has a line of the Mariners being minus 155, plus 135 on the Angels. 8.5 is your total. The over and the under are both at minus 110. If this winds up being Mr. Barria against Anderson, I'd be setting the Seattle Mariners more around about a minus 140 favorite. This would be a spot in which a 9 or lower. I'd be taking a look at the over to 9.5 or higher. I'd be taking a look at the under, because the big thing with Anderson is that despite the fact that he's got a 3.38 ERA and a 2-1 record since coming over to Seattle, you take a look at his starts, and well, he's made, I believe, like 3 of them against the Texas Rangers. He also made one against the Arizona Diamondbacks. He just hasn't necessarily been facing off against the world's greatest competition. Now, I do give him credit. In his last 2 starts against the Oakland A's and the Boston Red Sox, a combined 2 runs surrendered there. So that is better competition, and he was able to rise to the challenge there. But at the same time, this is someone that he does give up the deep ball a little bit, and it's signed with the Seattle Mariners right around 1.35 home runs given up per 9 innings. Now, he's done a tremendous job with the walks. His walks per 9 rate is right around a 2-ish ever since coming over to Seattle, but he also has for the year a 4.65 road ERA as well, so that is something that you do want to look into. And then with Mr. Aime Barria, it certainly has been ups and downs with him, but he's out giving up 3 runs or fewer in each of his last 5 starts. He has given up 1 home run in his last 3, and he does a good job of being able to keep the walks down. 2 walks or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts. Now, the problem with him is that he's backed up by a bullpen that is far inferior to that of the Seattle Mariners, as Andrew wants. He wants a new start to the season because he's got an ERA that is north of 5. Jimmy Hergoat is someone that I have no faith in whatsoever. James White, he's got an ERA that is north of 60. Cishek has been solid, and Rossio Iglesias, a great closer, but you need to get the ball to Rossio Iglesias. And then for the Seattle Mariners, you've had so many of these guys like a Drew Second-Rider, Paul Sewald, Casey Sadler, Yohan Ramirez, all these guys come in and do a great job. Now, the problem with the Seattle Mariners is that they just don't have a lot of guys who are able to get on base for you in general. J.P. Crawford's hitting about a 265. Mitch Haniger, he and Kyle Seager, both 35 home runs apiece. You didn't have anyone else in the starting lineup with north of 17. That'd be Ty France. He's hitting a 290. Ever since coming over from the Houston Astros, you've been able to get quite a bit out of Abraham Torra as well. But then with Seager, you're able to throw in there Jared Kelenic, Tom Murphy, Ode Mamaloes, Dylan Moore, Cal Raleigh, all these guys hitting a 220 or lower. And then with the Angels, it has been ghastly bad for them as well. Shohei Ohtani, ever since July 28th, hitting right around 200-ish. You've got Jack Mayfield along with Mr. Jose Rojas, hitting between about a 210 to a 220. Luis Rengifo, he's hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. For David Fletcher, he's only ninth. He's hitting 270 overall for the year, but you take a look at his numbers ever since the beginning of the month of August, and you've seen some massive regression for him as he's been hitting right around the Mendoza line of a 200 ever since, and it is bad. Jared Walsh hitting right around 265 along with Phil Gosselin, and for Walsh, he has 27 home runs. Problem is, only 5 of them have came since the All-Star break, so like I said, with the Mariners willing to set them more around about a minus 140 favorite if it does wind up being Anderson versus Jaime Barria. If it winds up being someone like a Jansen Junk or something like that, this is a price that is certainly going to be probably rising a little bit closer to that DraftKings minus 155 line, and with this total 9 or lower, going to be taking a look at the over 9.5 or to the under, and this despite the fact that the Angels have scored just 3.2 runs per game ever since the beginning of the month of September going into yesterday. And we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. Got the Tampa Bay Rays, and they are going to be playing us to the Miami Marlins. Sandy Alcantara is going to be going for the Marlins. Meanwhile, you've got Shane McClanahan going for the Tampa Bay Rays. Rays are finding themselves in between minus 197 and a minus 220 favorite. Meanwhile, your plus price with Miami is anywhere between plus 179 and plus 185. 7.5 is your total. Under is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The over is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 105. For Alcantara, he has been able to do a very solid job home to road. Now, on the road, he certainly has been a little bit tougher than at home because, well, it's just one of those situations in which Miami is such a pitcher-friendly ballpark that it is going to throw things out of whack. But overall for the year, a 9-13 record despite a 3.05 ERA. That's being a tough luck loser on the road. A 3.98 ERA, giving up 12 home runs in 95 innings compared to 7 bombs in 99 and 2/3 innings at home, with opponents hitting about a 241 off of him. And he does have to face off against the Tampa Bay Rays team in which you've got a trio of guys with at least 30 home runs. Mike Zunino, Nelson Cruz, Brandon Lau. For Lau, he's only hitting about a 235, but he's got more like a 335 on base. G-Man Choi is the same way, right around a 235 batting average, but more like a 360 on base. Randy Arozarena has been very good for this team. He, along with Nelson Cruz, Joey Wendell, owing between about a 270 to 275 with Arozarena, a 350 on base. He's been able to supply right around 19 home runs of his own, so he's been very solid for the team. Kevin Kiermaier, Francisco Mejia, these guys are hitting right around 250. Then you've got Austin Meadows, north of 100 RBI, hitting about a 230 with more like a 315 on base. He's been able to give you 25 plus home runs. And for the Miami Marlins, they've been without Jesus Aguilar, so they've got one guy in the starting lineup with a double-digit amount of homers. That's Jazz Chisholm. He's hitting over right around a 250, so he's been solid. And for Jesus Sanchez, 9 home runs over the team's last 30 days, so he's been good there, hitting right around 245. He, Mangolia Sierras, along with Lou Brinson, are all hitting between about a 230 and a 245. Then you've got Miguel Rojas hitting at 270 for this team. You've been able to get a little bit of something out of Nick Fortes, who's hitting like a 500. Obviously, that's a small sample size. And then you've got Izan Diaz, Eddie Alvarez. You're able to throw in there someone like Andrew Jackson, Peyton Henry. These guys are in below the Mendoza line of 200. But I will say for the Miami Marlins, bullpen has been relatively decent. Richard Bleier has been able to give you some good innings along with Anthony Bender. Dylan Flora has been able to close out some games. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, we all know about this team. Andrew Kittredge is currently on the injured list, but you get back Nick Anderson off the injured list. JP Fireeyes and Pete Fairbanks, these guys are able to do their part ever since coming over from the Seattle Mariners. JT Chargois has right around a 2-ish ERA, but with Sandy Alcantara being this big of an underdog, I think that's a little bit too much of an overreaction. Shane McClanahan has been very solid for the Tampa Bay Rays this year, so I do feel like he should be a sizable favorite. This is a man that has given up 3 earned runs or fewer, and now I believe 14 out of his last 15 starts. He's been able to do a good job of being able to keep the ball down as well, giving up right around 1 home run per 9 innings. The walks were a little bit of an issue at the beginning of the year, but that has stabilized, but it's actually been a little bit worse at home than on the road. 364 home ERA, 338 road ERA, so I do take a look at that, and I was willing to take the Miami Marlins. As long as I was getting north of a plus 175, we have gotten there. Also made this all an 8.2, so going to be going over along with the Marlins, and that'll wrap things up for the Baseball Betting Podcast on this Saturday. A big thanks to Jon Jansen of Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, for joining me in the last segment. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcast: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you've got a question, comment, segment idea, whatever you for this podcast, one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at JRens41. Keep in mind, letters EM. Name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to find whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via the 5-star review in the comments box. Going to be coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, which means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you.